जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवराधारी। जय गिरिवराधारी। जय यशोदानंदन जय व्रज जनरंजन। जय व्रज जनरंजन। जय यमुना तीरावनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी। जय यमुना तीरावनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी। जय यमुना तीरावनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Kala Chanji Radha Kala Chanji Radhe. Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Nashtaprayeshu abhaddeshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatir uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtuki krishnaya vasudevaya devaki nandanaya cha nandagopakumaraya govindaya namo namaha. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2nd, Chapter 10, Text 10. Purusho andam vinirvidya yada sosa vinirgataha atmano yanam anivichan apotsrakshik chuchi suchi. Purusho andam vinirvidya yada sosa vinirgataha atmano yanam anivichan apotsrakshik suchi suchi. Purusho andam vinirvidya yada sosa vinirgata atmano yanaman michan apotsrachik shuchi shuchi. Purusho andam vinirvidya yada sosa vinirgataha atmano yanaman vichan apotsrakchik chuchi suchi. Purusho andam vinirvidya dasosa vinirgataha Atmano yanaman vichan apotsrakshik suchihi Purusho andam vinirvidya yadasosa vinirgataha Atmano yanaman vichan apotsrakshik suchi Purusho andam vinirvidya yadasosa vinirgataha Atmano vichan aposrachit suchihi. Anyone else or okay? The transliteration: Purushaha, the Supreme Person, Paramatma, Andam, the universes, Vinirvidya, making them each separately situated, Yada, when, Asau, the same, Saha, he the Lord, Vinirgataha, came out, Atmanaha, of himself, Ayanam, lying in place, Anvichan, desiring, Apaha, water, Asrakshit, created, Suchihi, the most pure, Suchihi, transcendental. Translation: after separating the different universes, the gigantic universal form of the Lord Mahavishnu, which came out of the causal ocean, the place of appearance for the first Purusha avatara, entered into each of the separate universes, desiring to lie on the created transcendental water Garbhodaka. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. After analysis of the living entities and the Supreme Lord Paramatma, the independent source of all other living beings, Srila Sukadev Goswami is now presenting the prime necessity for devotional service to Lord, which is the only occupational business of all the living entities. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna and his plenary portions and extensions of plenary portions are non-different from one another, and thus the supreme independence is in each and every one of them. In order to prove this, Sukadev Goswami, as promised to King Parikshit, describes herein the independence of the Purusha Avatara, personality of Godhead, even in the sphere of material creation. Such activities of the Lord are also transcendental, and therefore they are also the Leela, or pastimes of the Absolute Lord. Such pastimes of the Lord are very conducive to the hearers for self-realization in the field of devotional service. Some may argue, why not relish the transcendental Leela of the Lord as exhibited in the land of Mathura and Vrindavana, which are sweeter than anything in this world? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur replies that the pastimes of the Lord in Vrindavana are meant to be relished by advanced devotees of the Lord. Neophyte devotees will misunderstand such supreme transcendental activities of the Lord, and therefore Lord's pastimes in the material sphere related to creation, maintenance and destructions are very relishable by the Prakrita or mundane devotees of the Lord. As the yoga system mainly based on bodily exercises is meant for the person to be too much attached to the bodily conception of existence, similarly the Lord's pastimes related to creation and destruction of the material world are for those who are too materially attached. For such mundane creatures, the functions of the body and the cosmic functions of the cosmic world through the physical laws in relationship with the Lord are also therefore included in understanding of the lawmaker, the personality of Godhead. The scientists explain the material functions by so many technological terms of material law, but such blind scientists forget the lawmaker. The Srimad Bhagavatam points out the lawmaker. One should not be amazed by the mechanical arrangement of the complicated engine or dynamo, but one should praise the engineer who creates such a wonderful working machine. That is the difference between the devotee and the non-devotee. Devotees are always full with praising the Lord who directs the physical laws. In the Bhagavad Gita 9-10 shloka, the direction of the Lord upon the material nature is described. Madhyakshena prakritaha suyate sacharacharam ute nayana kaunteya jagat vipi ravartate. The material nature, full of physical laws, is one of my different energies. Therefore, it is neither independent nor blind, because I am transcendently all-powerful. Simply by glancing over material nature, the physical laws of nature work so wonderfully. The actions and reactions of the physical laws work on that account, and thus the material world is created, maintained, and annihilated again and again. Men with a poor fund of knowledge, however, become astonished by studying the physical laws both within the construction of the individual body and within the cosmic manifestation, and foolishly they decry the existence of God, taking it for granted that the physical laws are independent without any metaphysical control. The Bhagavad Gita 9-11 shloka replies to this foolishness in the following words: Avarjantri mam mudha manushim tanumashritam paramam bharam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. The foolish men mudaha do not know the personality of Godhead in his eternal form of bliss and knowledge. The foolish man thinks of the transcendental body of the Lord as something like his own, and therefore he cannot think of the unlimited controlling power of the Lord, who is not visible in the acting of the physical laws. The Lord is, however, visible to the naked eyes of people in general when he descends himself by his own personal potency. Lord Krishna incarnated himself as he is and played very wonderful parts as the Lord himself, and the Bhagavad Gita concerns such wonderful actions and knowledge. Yet foolish men will not accept Lord Krishna as Supreme Lord. Generally, they consider the infinitesimal and infinite features of the Lord because they themselves are unable to become either the infinitesimal or the infinite. But one should know that the infinite and infinitesimal sizes of the Lord are not his highest glories. The most powerful manifestation of the Lord's power is exhibited when the infinite Lord becomes visible to our eyes as one of us. Yet his activities are different from those of the finite beings. Lifting a mountain at the age of 7, marrying 16,000 wives in the prime of his youth are some of his examples of his infinite energy. But the Mudhas, after seeing them or hearing them, decry them as legendary and take the Lord as one of them. They cannot understand that Lord Sri Krishna, although in the form of a human being, by his own potency is still the Supreme Lord with full potency as the Supreme Controller. When, however, the Mudhas give submissive and oral reception to the messages of the Lord, as in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita or in the Srimad Bhagavatam, through the channel of disciplic succession, such Mudhas also become devotees of the Lord by the grace of his pure devotees. And for this reason only, either in the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam, the pastimes of the Lord in the material world are delineated for the benefit of those men with a poor fund of knowledge. Om Ajnanaatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yenam Tasmai Shri Guruvaya Namaha. So actually we see in this shloka, the context of this chapter, it is describing, Sukadev Goswami is really describing the creation of the process of material creation itself. As it is said here that Ishvara Paramakrishna Sachidanandam Vigraha Anadiradir Govindam Sarva Karana Karanam. His body is transcendental. It is Satchit and Anandam. It is not composed of material elements. But Mudhas think of him as material. Bhagavan wants to create the universes just according to his wish. And that is the answer. So, as in this shloka it is said, the Mahapurusha, one should understand how creation is even done. In the Krishna Yajur Veda, in the Taittiriya Upanishad portion, right? The starting it says is Sahasrashi Sa Purushaha Sahasraksha Sahasrapata Sabhuvim Vishwato Vritva Atyatishtat Dashan Gulam. So it says that the Parama Purusha has thousands of head, has thousands of eyes, thousands of feet. He pervades the earth and everywhere. He manifests and stands as one who is beyond to contemplate. So this Mahapurusha is also actually was described by Arjuna when Krishna showed him the universal form. It says, and he described it. He says, Aneka Bahu Udara Vaktra Netram Pashyami Tvam Sarvato Ananta Rupam Nantam Na Madhyam Na Punas Tadavim Pashyami Vishweswara Vishwarupaha. He says, Arjuna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? O Lord of the universe, thou who has universal form with manifold arms, stomachs, mouths, and eyes, I behold your infinite form on all sides. And says, that's why the Virata Purusha form, of course, it is also a plenary expansion of Lord Krishna, but it still is required for creation. As we know from Chaturvya form, Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Anuruddha comes, and each of them is assigned into each different universe and how they create. We call Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Karmodakshaya Vishnu, Shirodakshaya Vishnu. So each of those have a purpose. So when Bhagavan wants to create universes, he just needs to think. His manasa and his mind is what actually is glance, as it is said in the shloka, is enough to create creation. Material creation only comes by conception or between male and a female. But Bhagwan's creation doesn't come like this. It just comes by manas. Just like for Brahma, he wanted to, as Bhagwan decides to create the universe, Brahma just comes out of his navel. That is the answer. All Jivatmas are always existent as he is Paramatma. So only when Bhagwan desires, even the material creation can even happen actually. Yes, there is free will, people will question, but that free will, as we know, is only in bounds of certain things. One cannot go outside the boundary of what Prakriti and Purusha says. That is the answer. Sometimes, as in the shloka also says, that scientists want to create life and they want to try different things in life, and some things you can say is part of Vedic knowledge, and some things they try which is not conducive to Vedic knowledge or dharma, and their plans fail. That we have seen again and again, actually speaking. So if you actually see in the next slokam in the Vedam about this creation as described here, it says, Purusha eve dagam sarvam yadbhuta yaccha bhavyam utamrit tatvaseshanaha yadannena tirohati. He says whatever was there before and whatever is going to appear and in the future actually is always there. All of these are indeed shown by the Parama Purusha. So as again in this shloka it says, the Purusha avatara is what is described. So Bhagwan, when he decides to create, it just comes naturally. We have to make endeavor. We have to make effort. Whether we have to do devotional service or we have to do material activity. But for Bhagwan, it is just his mind. Why, if you see, Mudhas decide, as it says in the shloka, Avajananti mam mudha manushim tanumashritam. If you look at Lord Krishna, his activities are also very considered mundane. But even when Rama came and took avataram, even his activities are considered very mundane. People would think Lord Rama is just son of Dasharatha. He was very sad when his father passed away. He showed exhibition of emotion. But you see, or when Sita was gone away, common as it says in Bhagavad Gita in the 15th chapter, we humans can only understand examples related to ourselves, and the material universe is a reflection of the spiritual world. So that is why Bhagavan comes down, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. He takes avataram. Avataram means one to descend. We don't descend. We continue revolving and taking birth after birth. That is the reality. Bhagavan's is called ascent and descent. Only for us Jivatmas, we are called actually revolving here, because we are bounded. And until we get out of this bodily conception, and until we surrender to Bhagavan Sri Krishna, we cannot get out of this cycle of birth and death. But for Bhagavan, his activities are not considered normal birth. As we know, even Lord Krishna's birth is transcendental. It is not material. He didn't just come out of the womb, just as what we think. Normal human birth or birth of species is by law of nature. That's how it happens. But for Lord Krishna, his birth is considered transcendental. When he is born himself, he is already covered in Pitambaram. He already has jewels, and he has all the auspicious marks on his hands, not like a normal human baby is born, as what we know in a hospital. That is the transcendental nature of Bhagavan. So Bhagavan's every activity is beautiful. Like Vallabhacharya has written a song, Adharam madhuram vadanam madhuram nayanam madhuram hasitam madhuram hridayam madhuram gamanam madhuram madhuradhipate rakhilam madhuram. He says his smile is beautiful, his heart is beautiful. I mean, he goes on to say Kamalam madhuram. He describes every activity of Bhagavan. Every activity of Bhagavan, in whichever he does, even his haranam, even his killing of the Rakshasas is considered beautiful. It is not unlike other things. Why? Because the purpose of those is vinashaya dushkrinatam. As we know, Rama slaying Ravana is not considered, we can say Ravana was a bad person. But of course, Jaya and Vijaya were cursed to become in that particular aspect of Ravana and Kumbhakarna. Like previously they were Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. So one cannot become some enemy of the Lord like that and say, I want to fight. If they want to fight also, that is Bhagavan's desire. So all these transcendental pastimes of whether Lord Krishna lifting Govardhan hill and other things, people think, Indra was such a bad person. And sometimes we devotees think we are more elevated than Indra just because we chant 16 rounds. That is misconception. We are not even greater than Surya or Vayu. We are not even, if you say in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Iman Vivasvate, he says, I spoke this Bhagavad Gita directly to Sun God. We are not even qualified like that. We have no qualification to become that, first of all. That is a reality. So to think that, that is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has always praised Tranadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna. This slokam is very important. By chanting 16 rounds, we do not become greater at all. To think great of other people and other devatas, forget human beings. To think about higher people on higher elevated planets itself is misconception. We can say we are fortunate to be here in Kali Yugam to chant Bhagavan's name. But to think we become greater than that, that is misfolly. Imagine if sun doesn't come, what will happen? There will be no rain, no sun, no life. Simple. We don't even have the power. So that is why Jivatmas, we have to understand our position, our infinitesimal. And that's why he said in this shloka that it's very nicely written by Prabhupada, that generally they consider the infinitesimal and infinite features of the Lord because they themselves are unable to become that. And that is what every Jivatma in attachment to body wants to become. They either want to become the fastest, the smallest, or they want to become the greatest. But what they don't realize is these pastimes are manifested, though he is become infinite, he becomes finite just for us to understand. Because with our finite brain, we cannot understand the infinite. Only by his grace and kataksham then we can even understand. Even to understand Shastra or transcendental scripture or his pastimes, it is his mercy. Like Bhagwan coming in Vrindavana and doing pastimes, even pastimes happen today, which is not visible to the normal eye. But even when he was there, at least he wanted us to see. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took avataram and he performed pastimes. Why? Because he wanted as Patita Pavana that people to understand what is devotional service, what is surrender to Lord Krishna, how to get out of bodily conception. If that is not, if Bhagwan doesn't come and show, or his Bhagavata doesn't come and show, how will we understand? So, the further it says, in description to the shloka itself, about the creation, right? Tripadhurda udait purushaha padotseva bhavat punaha tato vishwanyakramat sasana nasane abhi. So it says the Parama Purusha of the third, fourth dimension, he shines above the Prapanchan. His 1/4 portion is present always there. Here. So the Satchit and Anandam is always as it is complete. If you see, only 1/4 of his energy is enough to maintain all these different material creations and all of us. His 3/4 always remain there actually. That is the truth. And that is why if we subtract 1 plus 1 minus 1, it becomes 0 in this material universe. Bhagwan Krishna, as he says in the shloka, one example, Bhagwan married 16,108 wives, but he was simultaneously present with all of them at the same time and performed unique individual pastimes with all his consorts. A material person cannot do this. That is his potency. He maintains all these different universes, thousands of universes which are present, and in each one of them he is also there as a protector, and in each one of us also he is present as Paramatma actually. So as we see, his potency is infinite. It cannot be questioned. It cannot be comprehended. Only by love or prema one can understand Bhagavan. Yes, Chatur Vidha Bhajante Mam. 4 kinds of people will come to Bhagavan. One who seeks knowledge, distress, wants, pain, that's okay. But everyone comes to that phases. No one became devotee in one life straight away. It says, Bahunam Janmanam Ante. You have taken countless births as animals, plants, species and humans. Only then Vasudeva Sarvam Iti, the understanding comes itself. Of course, it only happens through a Bhagavata or a Vaishnava, through his mercy or kataksham, that one comes into this path. But we have continuously taken this again and again and again and again, and slowly we come to that realization. As Bhagavan says in Bhagavad Gita, that the unsuccessful yogi sometimes may stop wherever he did and he will start again. And Bhagavan knows what is the right time, whether it happens in this lifetime or he has to take another birth. That is between the Paramatma and Jivatma which happens, actually speaking. That is why in our philosophy, in Vaishnava philosophy, it is always said to surrender. And if you see why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talks about Ashrishyava Padaratam Pinashtumam, I mean you can relate every slokam in Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita directly to Shikshashtakam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu only said 8 verses, actually speaking. You can make context and write for every shloka, you can relate to that. But if you think about Ashrishyava Padaratam, because surrender is important. Whether he takes us or leaves us, we still have to be his servant. That is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said. Similarly, as Jivatma, we have to understand that whether in this lifetime or next lifetime, when he decides to take us back, we should always be for him. That is the realization. So further, if you look in this context of creation, तस्माद् विराधजायतः विराजो अधिपुरुषः सजातो अत्यरिच्यतः पश्चात् भूमि मतो पुरः. So it says from this Purusha, Adi Purusha, I know I don't want to use the word, actually Adi Purusha is a very technical term used. I know in a lot of people in Indians may use, there was some useless movie released which we don't want to talk about here, but actually the word of Virat and Adi Purusha is coming from Vedam, and it has very significance actually. It is not some term to be just used. Okay, people can misuse anything they want in today's world, but the reality is the uniquely representative Brahmandam arose from it, and from that Virajo Adi Purusha means seeking the support and protection actually of this Abhiman Purusham. That is the meaning of it actually in this whole terminology what they used actually. So if you see how Bhagavan is, if you from the Vedam which I have quoted, you can see actually how Bhagavan takes step by step. So actually if I were to just read in a whole, so it says the same thing I talked about, the three parts. It says Sapta san paridaya trisapta samidakritaha deva yagyam tanvana abadnan purushan pashun. So it's from this srishti, we say chandas like Gayatri we chant is in a different meter. In Sanskritam, if you know, in Bhagavad Gita is also written in a particular meter. So all these different things, actually the whole creation is only created by sound. I mean, if I were to explain this even scientifically, I mean for people, maybe students and scientific, right? We say Omkaram or Om is the actual creation of meditation. You know actually that each material object has a resonance frequency. I mean, you will be able to understand, right? We have frequency, right? Earth has a resonance frequency. Even Saturn, Jupiter, they have different resonance frequencies. Even planets. People think planets don't affect us, right? Moon, if you think about moon, just to take it from a scientific perspective, moon creates the waves. Earth is 70% water, right? So the attraction of gravitational force affects the waves, right? You know how much composition is our body made of 70% water actually. So if you see why they say moon affects our mind, so in the Vedas it says, as Purusha creates, Chandrama manaso jataha chaksho suryo ajayataha mukhad indrascha agnischa pranad vayurajayataha. So Chandrama manaso jata means from Purusha's, from Bhagavan's mind his moon was created, and his eyes are like the sun. So that's why our mind gets affected by the moon, actually speaking. This is the scientific reason. I mean, people think that Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita and Vedic knowledge is just kind of some shlokas. No, actually it has got, each and every aspect has a significant scientific thing actually. That is why it is said the sound vibration itself. We chant Mahamantram. Why we chant, even that Mahamantram has a frequency. Why they say, right? If you chant Veda Mantram, you chant Bhagavad Gita, we chant Shlokam, why does it have an effect for us? Why does it have a positive effect? This is the reason. You can chant other words 24/7. After 5 minutes, you will get bored. Maybe 20 minutes, you will get bored. You may listen to the same. It's natural. Sometimes people may use some, certain words and things. It may attract people more. But chanting Bhagavad Gita, one cannot get bored. That is the truth. You can chant how many times you want. You will not lose. You are, how do I say this? You may be busy in other things, but the shloka of Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, or any other Veda Mantram, it will never be tasteless. It will always have taste. That is the uniqueness of it. Even Bhagwan's name, of course, his different names have different potencies. We don't want to get into that in this class today. That's a different class and topic. But every name has a different potency and how it helps. So similarly, that's why I said, right, scientifically also, the creation of the different moon, the planets, how they come, they affect us actually. So Vedic knowledge is not something in today's world, scientists think, yeah, things were created very haphazardly with a blind mind. Vedic knowledge is not against science. It is actually very scientific. The only thing to understand is we don't have the knowledge to understand it, or we choose to be ignorant. But we don't, we are not a nescience, or we never say that way, right? Otherwise, how is that, you know, not from creation? Even astrology, astronomy, and medicine and many other things were present before, right? Of course, modern science helps us do the same thing. We don't say we should not use modern science. The only question is the evolution of it and the perception of it changes over time. That is the only thing actually. Like, the best example I can give is this, right? 100 years ago there was no WhatsApp or no phone. People were still thinking of Bhagwan and people were still having devotion. We can't say just because we are having phone and WhatsApp, our devotion is stronger or better than them. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was 500 years before. Lord Krishna was 5000 years before in Dwapara Yuga. Lord Rama was in Treta Yuga, and so before. So, to think that with Bhagwan doesn't say don't use modern technology, but modern technology is only used to understand. It helps with time and circumstances. I mean, as I said, scientifically you can explain many things about this earth and other environmental factors, and you have to live in that material universe, right? Evolution happens. But evolution is not against Prakriti. It happens according to laws of nature, actually. That's how it is supposed to be understood. So, in terms of, let me just see. So, as, of course, the shloka in the end, of course, the Prabhupada says that when Mudas give submissive and oral reception to messages of the Lord, then in the disciplic succession one can understand. Because only by some things can only understood by surrendering, just like a student has to surrender to a teacher. Of course, one has to know the right teacher and the right person, but at the same point, one has to have that submissiveness and need to understand. The first question comes the need. Why will someone go to Bhagwan? Only because of distress. Naturally, one cannot directly come and say on day one that Bhagwan, I only love you, I don't want anything from you. That is only happening by transcendental associates of Bhagwan, which means those who are present in Bhagwan's abode, Mother Yashoda, Srimati Radharani, they are always 24/7 serving. They are always like this. We aspire to become like them, actually. We aspire, we look towards them, or look towards our spiritual masters, or other elevated and advanced Vaishnavas who have shown the path. It could be Srila Prabhupada, it could be Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, it could be different Vaishnava acharyas. There are many. Don't need to name. There are countless amount of them, and countless devotees who have taken birth before us and already gone to Bhagwan's abode, actually. So we should actually pray for their mercy and blessings that we can surrender and go to his supreme destination, actually. That is how our thinking should be. That is why we say, right, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Paritranaya cha sadhunam, vinashaya cha dushtunatam. Sorry, I said that is about why he comes, but then sarva dharma paritagyam. You have to surrender. You have to have meekness. That's why even say submissive meekness is one of the most critical thing to understand. Natural love, bhava, prema, those things are later stage, which may not be discussed today. But the reality of any jivatma is just to surrender to Bhagwan. He wants simplicity. If you look in Vrindavana, he roams among the cowherd boys and his calves and cows and his gopas. That's why, I mean, it's a nice song written by Vallabhacharya, right? He says, Gopa Madhura, Gao Madhura, Yashtir Madhura, Srishtir Madhura. He says his cows are also beautiful, his gopas are also beautiful. His Srishti means his creation is also beautiful. Everything about Bhagwan, his creation, is beautiful. He only wants simplicity. Simplicity is what attracts Bhagwan. Yes, opulence is nice to have. We should utilize everything as possible for Bhagwan's use. But at the same point, when Sabari came to give Lord Rama bitten fruits, he was most pleased. She didn't see about, oh, is she biting me and giving me that which has been tasted? That is a different bhavam. She is in a very advanced state. We should not imitate someone artificially, right? Even in devotional service. But that is what Bhagavan desires. He wants simplicity and he wants naturalistic. And sincerity comes. So that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that we should chant Bhagavan's name. We should surrender to him. If I was just say any other last slokam from this in the Vedam, just if I no, I think this is good for today. I mean, I can quote the whole thing by heart, but it will take a longer time. But so I think the context of this shloka, as we can see, that Bhagavan maintains and creates all these universes by his plenary expansions. But his individual form of Satchidananda Vigraha, of how Lord Krishna is of course what devotees desire to worship and do service, whether directly or indirectly. It could be directly to him or through his associates in the spiritual world, when we go there, right? Or here we are serving as well. But Bhagavan has all of this, because why, one can also question, why does Bhagavan explain all this? Because for him, he can just snap his finger and he can create everything and annihilate everything. But there will be natural questions coming of how these things happen. So that's why Bhagavan takes a very natural approach, just like a father wants to explain his children step by step. So that's the purpose of, I know the whole shloka, if you see from 10:10 to 10:35, it will really describe all the different things about the elements, the seven skins, the Panchamahabhuta, the five jnana indriya, the five karma indriya, how they form 21 actually objects of knowledge and creation. That is all explained in this. So, but all of these shlokas from 10 to 10:35, they actually really conform to what is mentioned in the Krishna Yajurveda actually. So I'll just end the class here. If any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Or
Prabhu, thank you so much for the class. My question is that, as explained by Srila Prabhupada and yourself in the purport, that we're finite. However, we understand that in their spiritual nature, we're Satchidananda, full, complete bliss, complete knowledge, and complete and eternal. So how do we understand that we're completely full of knowledge, yet we're finite?
So the answer is the Jivatma here is actually not finite in that sense. It is actually infinite. By quality, it is infinite. By quantity, it is finite. Bhagavan is infinite. We, as Jivatma, we have the same quality. That is the Satchidananda Vigraha. But the Vigraha is the different. Because we take material body. His Satchitanandam and Vigraha is the same. So for us, that is the finite portion. When you cross, the answer to your question is, we cannot attain that till we cross Viraja Nadi. You have to cross. To enter his spiritual abode, as you know, the soul has to travel when it quits the body. This is explained in Garuda Purana and all, but in detail. But in order to get that spiritual body, actually what it is said is, when the Jivatma is ready to enter Bhagavan Krishna's abode, it has to take a dip in the Viraja Nadi, and everything what is material is gone, and there is no coming back. That is when you attain the spiritual body. Because there are four kinds of, we call liberation and moksha, it's the same meaning only. Salokya, Samipya, Srishti, whatever is there, right? Not so. In order to attain that, you will have to go through that stage. So Bhagavan is infinite. Us, we are infinite in quality, which is the same, but not in quantity. We can never be.
So can you explain, could you say how that looks in the spiritual world as being complete knowledge, but having, in quantity, we are
so the
finite?
Yes, right. So the answer, that is also explained actually. This is all given by previous acharyas only. Okay, this is nothing got given by me. These questions are very natural questions. So there, um, the finiteness is we will have quality to do many things as what Bhagavan wishes and what he wishes. But the first thing which one has to understand in the spiritual world is anukulya sankalpasya, which means we may have the same quality in certain things like him, but we cannot do anything what he doesn't want. That is the fundamental thing. It says anukulya sankalpasya pratikulpa vajana, means not doing anything what he wants, and it applies also here actually as to surrender to Bhagavan. But there, what he desires is only what everyone does. Like the question is, I'll give an example. Other acharyas and jivatmas have already gone to the spiritual world. Can they see us from there to here? The answer is yes. Will they interfere? No. Do they have the power? Yes. Will they interfere? No. That is the answer. We cannot, so that is why it is said that though acharyas and other bhagavatas have been there, whether you call nitya siddhas or jivatmas who have liberated or gone back, they will have that potency, but they will choose not to do it. They cannot, and it's not that it is not a question of they cannot. They will not do it because that's not what Bhagavan wants them to do. Lord Krishna doesn't want them to do. So that is why that word of surrender is so important. Question comes is, if we become naturally, right, if let's say we become infinite, then as it is also said that Bhagavan has that infinite nature to Lord. He is the Bhagavan, he is Lord of everything, correct? He controls everything. As Prabhupada has explained also in the purport, why do we also, when we take a material body, why people want to lord over this world? You see that? Why people want to become the most powerful? You know, some people, right? People want to, why? Where does it come from? Everything has to come from him only, na? But it is contaminated, it is reflected. That is the problem. So, to become, we say as, that is why even in the spiritual loka, because we attain a spiritual body and we can do anything we want, but we will not do anything. The problem is, the moment here we think about, actually it is what you are asking is kind of explained here, right? We want to become infinite, but what we want to do after becoming infinite? It's natural, right? If say I have infinite wealth, I'm just saying, or something, anyone, what do you want to do? You may want to donate temple, you want to donate some money, and in the end of the day, after that, you will want to go to enjoy. Doesn't matter, right? See that even 1% of personal desire is not there. The desire is only to serve Bhagavan. So this is the relationship. The finite, the infiniteness comes, but we curb it to become finite for His service. Yeah. No, it's a good question you asked. There is a lot more detail, but I can elaborate. No. It's not. It's a question which is asked many times, and acharyas have told this many times, right? So thank you for asking. Any other comments or thoughts, if I can answer? Okay. All right, we will end. Thank you very much. Vrindraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki